Okay, brothers, honorable friends, ladies and gentlemen. On the one hand, I really have a lot to say today. I could go on for hours and days. On the other, everything I have to say can really be summed up in one word. Enough. Enough already. Enough with the both sides and clashes, and we must show restraint and all this empty talk. Enough of dancing around the truth. Really enough with all this crap, I must say. There is only one side here. That side is Israel, an oppressor, an aggressor, a colonial expansionist state built around ethno-religious supremacism that has an army, an air force, a navy that has nuclear weapons and which continues to enjoy the apparently unending support of the world's superpowers. And there is the Palestinian people. There is us, an indigenous native population, oppressed, dispossessed, scattered across the world, scattered across their homeland, where they suffer daily the indignities that come with being discriminated against, in law and in fact, detained, evicted, wounded, and killed with no recourse to any justice, while at every moment more and more of their ancestral land is lost to people who believe it is their divine entitlement. Enough of all this. This has to stop, my brothers and sisters. This has got to stop. There can be no equivalence, no comparisons. There is no comparison between the modern weaponry of a sophisticated 21st century military backed by the US and the West and the homemade weapons of an impoverished and desperate population under siege. There is no comparison between a country protected by a missile defense system, the art, the state of the art, and an area like Gaza, besieged and isolated, defenseless against attacks from air, land, and sea. None. None of these comparisons hold. This cannot be described as war, as so many in the international media shamefully do. War implies some kind of equality of status, of symmetry, some kind of balance of powers. There is nothing like that here. There is only one military and only one recognized state, that is the occupying state. There is only one side, and it is a side that acts as it pleases, when it pleases, with free hands. There can be no justification for using the full force of discriminatory laws to favor one set of people over another, simply on ethno-religious grounds. Jews can make legal claims to properties, as they have in the Sheikh Jarrah, arguing, claiming, they say, that this was Jewish owned before creation of the State of Israel in 1948. But Palestinians, we can't. When we actually owned the entire land of historic Palestine, when we lost the majority of our property inside what has become Israel. What kind of law is this? How is such a blatant racism even still in existence? Every day, my friends, brothers and sisters, every day, houses are being razed, villages demolished, people made homeless. Every day, Palestinians are killed, maimed, or detained, often in administrative detention without trial and confronted with so-called secret evidence, as the case in Sheikh Jarrah, in front of a military court, the Israeli military courts, with, can you believe it, a 99% conviction rate. Every day, my brothers and sisters, Palestinians, men, women, and children are humiliated at checkpoints, forced to wait hours, stripped, demeaned, and treated like less than human. Every day, my friends, a child cries for her father, like in Gaza last night, a brother for his sister, a mother for her children. It is sickening. But what is worse is that everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. There is not a politician in the Western Hemisphere who does not understand the true nature of the situation on the ground. Not one, by the way. And I have served in many diplomatic places. I have served in Washington. I'm serving now in London. There is not one politician who does not understand the situation as it is. And yet, lip service is all we get. People talk about respect for international law. Politicians talk about their support for a two-state solution. People talk about their respect for human rights. They talk too much, my friends, and they do little. Politicians talk too much and they do little. Enough of that too. There are things to be done. There are simple actions that governments around the world can and must take if they want to make an immediate, positive, and lasting impact on the situation. The first of these is to agree on a principle, on a major principle. Israel must be held to account for its actions just like everyone else. This culture of impunity must end. Israel must stop being above the law. It cannot any longer be that Israel escapes without consequences for its constant, repeated, and outrageous violations of international law, international humanitarian law, and simple common morality. To this end, my friends, we call on countries, including the United Kingdom, and particularly the UK, given its historic responsibility of creating the agony, the ongoing agony we are still in right now, to do three things. First, to ban all the illegal settlement products, all of these illegal settlement products and settlers from entering the UK, and all the companies that illegally work in these illegal colonies. The UK must support, and the rest of the world must support our efforts in the International Criminal Court to bring Israeli war criminals into justice. And the United Kingdom is late in recognizing the state of Palestine on the 1967 borders. What it is waiting for? Right now, my friends, we are looking at another horror show in Palestine. We fear another massacre like in 2014 and all the wars that preceded it. We see the same parties saying the same things to the same effects as before. We have seen this movie before. We worry. We worry. We worry that the international media has already failed in its duty. For weeks, weeks upon weeks, Palestinians in Jerusalem have been protesting the planned evictions this month of the families from Sheikh Jarrah. But only on Sunday, when the Israeli army invaded Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy month of Ramadan, the prayer, the Laylatul Qadr, did some British media begin to pick upon it. And now it is presented as some kind of Israeli retaliation for rocket fire. No, this is not about rocket fire. This is not about Hamas. This is not about Palestinian reaction. This is about Israel's actions. It is about Israel's crimes and illegal occupation, and it is about the world's inaction and silence. And as I said at the beginning, I say it again here, enough of this impunity. Why do you think Palestinians from Haifa to Rafah, from Jerusalem to Lod, from Ramallah to Hebron, everywhere in Palestine, in Nazareth, in Akka, in Haifa, everywhere, are heroically and defiantly protesting in the streets at a very real risk, as you all know, to their own lives, from an unhinged and unrestrained Israeli military and police and forces. It is because, my friends, not only is the Palestinian people united in purpose, we are not just united in purpose, we are also as a nation united in suffering. Some of us suffer oppression from military occupation, like our people in the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, but all of us suffer oppression from legal discrimination by an occupying state. And enough of that. Our struggle is a struggle for justice. You have to see it as a struggle for justice. It is a struggle for justice. And if we see it as a struggle for justice, how come some governments, some Western governments, call on us to stop? It is not the struggle, my brothers and sisters. It is not the struggle, my friends, that should stop. It is the injustice that must stop. Enough of this double standard and inaction. And I just want to end by telling you this. Our people are determined, absolutely determined, to end the injustice. And we should, all of us, the rest of the world, stand by them at this critical juncture. Thank you very much.
Brother Husam, thank you so much for sharing that. Just before you leave us, I have some questions that have come up in the Q&A. And one question here from Brother Naveed is that anti-Semitism accusations have been used to discredit and distract from the criticism of Israel. How do we address this issue?
Well, we must fight anti-Semitism. the heart of the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian issue is the fight against Israeli racism. So no one understands racism more than the Palestinians. And we are absolutely in the front line of fighting anti-Semitism. We do not want to see anybody who only criticizes Jews because they are Jews. But it is incumbent upon all of us. It is a moral obligation, an international obligation, a human obligation, not only to criticize Israeli policies, but actually to act to stop them immediately, to reverse the situation. And therefore, anybody, anyone, any entity, any group who deliberately attempt to conflate between the two fights is harming the two struggles.